Yan, mga kameta, kamusta kayo dyan? Medyo delay tayo kasi wala tayong wala tayong na-delay tayo kasi wala tayong ano, tawag dyan, fighter jets! Wala kasi tayong fighter jets, hindi kasi tayo jet setter, kaya medyo delay tayo. O, di ba sabi ng iba, sana sumakay na rin sa jeepney para naman makita yung yung kailangan ng tulong naman sa ating mga kapasada, yung mga ating mga public utility vehicle sector, especially yung mga jeepney drivers na ngayon ay nagwewelga at nagsistrike dahil dun sa kanilang concern about modernization of the Philippine transportation system. Of course, no one is against modernization per se, pero ang concern po natin is whether this modernization will come in a just and inclusive way. So siguro dapat magkaroon tayo ng isang hiwalay na talakayan dun sa issue ng modernization of transportation system natin. So ito mga kameta, kahapon, kagabi, yung mga BBMers, yung mga respect my opinion, mga vloggers, tinatag tayo kung saan-saan. Biglang tinag tayo dito. Oops! Nakita natin talagang Top Gun! Iba talagang style. Top Gun. Nasaan yung... pahingi nga yung Ray-Ban ko dyan. Hindi ito eh. Dapat... Hindi yan. Yung yung pang Top Gun. Hindi, nasa case yan. Wala dyan sa gilid-gilid. Sa leather. Yan! Hanapin natin yan. Ayan! Mga kameta! Ito. Nakahanap tayo. Itong pangtapat natin. Perfect. Hindi ito. Medyo Italian. Yan, mga kameta! Yan ang natin. Yan ang talakayan natin. Ano nangyari dito? Ba't na banking na? Ayan. Naku po. Yan ang problema. So, yan, mga kameta. Discuss natin to, Discuss natin to, mga kameta. Yan! Ito. So nakita natin ito kahapon, ang ating presidente po ay sumakay doon sa FA-50 fighters at tinetest drive nila yan or test flight, whatever is correct na tawag diyan. Para naman i-check yung preparedness ng ating sandataan lakas, especially yung ating Air Force, Philippine Air Force. So I'm sure yung ating mga ka-Philippine Air Force, yung mga ating mga sundalo dyan, natuwa sila because not long ago, we had the president who said na waste of money ang pagbili dito sa mga FA-50 fighters na yan. And guess what? Hindi po ito si Benigno Aquino because in many ways, dapat nagpapasalamat ang kasalukuyan na administration, hindi kay tatay, pero kay Benigno Aquino because it was under former President Aquino that we began this process of AFP Modernization 2.0. Because kung maalala niyo, mga kameta, the first time na talaga nag-push tayo for proper modernization ng ating sandataan lakas, kasi panahon ni Marcos and all, talagang we had, senior, I'm talking about the senior, ang dami natin giyera internally, yung war sa Mindanao, yung giyera laban sa mga NPA, komunista. So, yung Armed Forces of the Philippines was really degraded by the 1980s. Politically compromised, operationally bogged down, and then very very much yung ating orientation was domestic orientation, counterinsurgency dahil sa giyera sa Mindanao, dahil sa giyera laban sa mga komunista, NPA forces. So the first time na nag-push tayo for AFP modernization was really under President Fidel Ramos, God bless his soul. I think one of our best presidents, at least by Philippine standards, one of their best presidents. Si Ramos ay nag-push for Philippine AFP modernization noong 1990s, especially after nung umalis na po yung mga Amerikano, yung kanilang mga base dyan sa Subic, and especially after na nagkaroon tayo ng first mischief reef crisis, or rather, nagkaroon tayo ng mischief reef crisis kung saan kinuha ng mga Chino po yung kiniklaim natin na mischief reef or Panganiban Reef, which by the way happens to be inside the Philippines continental shelf. So ito po ay isang land feature, isang submerged land feature, submergible land feature ay kasama sa ating continental shelf. So sa atin yan, if you talk to any decent legal expert with an active gray matter and a sense of conscience, Anyway, so yun yung first time. Kaso mga kameta, unfortunately, dahil sa corruption, dahil sa tuloy-tuloy na problema sa giyera sa Mindanao, of course, from MNLF to MILF, tuloy-tuloy din yung insurgency ng mga komunista, NPA, yung iba't ibang faction dyan. Unfortunately, even under Ramos, we were not able to significantly modernize the Philippines, and those efforts were very much compromised under Estrada. Because President Estrada, kung maalala nyo, si Erap, syempre action star, di ba? Syempre si Erap, giyera agad dun sa MILF, di ba? Sa MILF. So habang si Ramos was able to strike this peace deal with the MNLF, which gave birth to the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, pagdating naman kay Erap, he declared a war against yung new faction ng mga Moro insurgents. Ito yung Moro Islamic Liberation Front. So once again, nakita natin na yung orientation ng ating Sandatang Lakas became very much domestic. So yung initial efforts to push for modernization of the Philippines Armed Forces were compromised. Not to mention, mga kameta, actually, there were efforts for the Philippines to actually acquire F-18 fighters. Yung Hornet. Mahalaga yan because kung nanood kayo nung latest na, di ko na maalala nung ginamit nila, F-16 fighter ba yung ginamit nila dun sa Top Gun, yung first. Pero yung sa Maverick, yung latest, kung makikita niyo mga kameta, F-18 fighters ang ginamit. And interestingly, panahon ni Ramos, we were supposed to get F-18 Super Hornet pa yan, fighters. Ito. Ito yung plan natin sana kukunin nung panahon ni, ito, Hornet. Yeah. F-18 Hornet fighters. Ito yung ginamit din ni Tom Cruise dun sa latest movie niya. So FA-18 kasi maraming variations 'yan. So that was what we were supposed to get, mga kameta, no? So kung for instance, kung check niyo si Max Defense Philippines, si parang Max, marami siyang matinong analysis about this issue. So we were supposed to get, mga kameta, ito sayang talaga. Ito yung F-18 fighter ang talagang gusto natin kunin sana noon. Nagkaroon ng Asian financial crisis. So doon naman tayo nadali, mga kameta. Because, alam nyo, 1997, nagkaroon ng financial crisis sa Thailand, doon sa kanyang real estate sector. If I'm not mistaken, it started there, then it hit the financial markets. The next thing you know, it spread across Asia, nagkaroon ng major recessions. Philippine GDP also contracted in places like Indonesia by almost a quarter. Horrible yung economic effects. So, yun din. Patapos ng Ramos administration, marami pa rin problema. And then, nagkaroon pa ng financial crisis. And then, it's not like Erap when he came into power made things any better. No? So, pakita lang natin itong F-18 fighter. So, ito po yung plan natin sana kunin. At kung maalala nyo, mga kameta, yan ang ginamit ng fighter jet ni parang Tom Cruise. Diba? So, kung tingnan nyo Maverick. At of course, interesting dun sa movie ng Maverick is Tom Cruise was using this F-18 fighter against, because of his strong maneuverability against, it looks like Su-57 fighters. Yeah, it looks like Su-57 fighters or yung 5th generation fighter ng Russia. Although it doesn't look like Russia yung kalaban talaga doon. Okay? Maverick, Top Gun, F-18. Okay, labas natin yan. So, kung titignan nyo, mga kameta, yung ginamit ni parang Koy, si parang Tom Cruise, diba, was actually F-18 fighters. So that was our plan, paano ni Ramos, mga kameta, to get those fighters and at least a squadron of them so that the Philippines would have relatively modern Air Force. But ito. So tingnan niyo, mga kameta. So if you check it dun sa movie, F-18 fighter yung ginamit ni parang Tom Cruise. So, ito yung plano sana ni Ramos na yan ang kukunin natin. And the Americans were actually offering that to us, no? So, hindi totoo na ayaw tayo bigyan ng Amerika. Ang problema rin kasi, nagkaroon tayo ng financial crunch, wala rin tayo prioritization pagdating sa Philippine Air Force and also Navy dahil ang priority natin ng Philippine Army, domestic insurgency, nagkaroon ng Asian financial crisis, katilang sinabi natin, and then si Erap, laging mas malalang problema dahil he declared war on MILF. So, ayan na naman. Lalo naging internal security-oriented ang Armed Forces of the Philippines. So, yun yung situation natin, mga kameta. And then, pagdating naman sa panahon ni Madam Arroyo, si Tita Arroyo, from 2001 to 2010, let's be honest, that was not necessarily the best time as far as civil-military relations are concerned. We had multiple coups. There was a lot of tensions between the civilian government and the military. nagkaroon ng kudeta sila Trillanes dahil sa concern sa corruption at yung mga kababalakan na nangyari sa bureaucracia, etc. So it was really a messy time. So in fairness, it was not really until President Aquino, God bless his soul, no? I mean, he was not a perfect president. We have a lot of, things to discuss. We can talk about, Mama Sapano. We can discuss about many things. But in fairness to President Aquino, at least, there was a recognition as early as 2010, 2011, that we have to go for modernization of the Philippines and developing what you call minimum credible posture or minimum deterrence capability, no? So ang idea po dito is hindi natin kailangan na tapatan ng China at iba't ibang bansa pagdating sa overall kapasidad nila when it comes to offensive military capabilities. No, what we need to do is to be able to defend ourselves if things go crazy, and hopefully we at some point will even have the ability to make our enemies think twice. So the term that Lee Kuan Yew, the Singaporean leader, used was poison shrimp, no? So sabi niya, we live in a world of big fish, small fishes, and shrimps, no? And so you need to be in a world of big fishes and small fishes. If you're not even a small fish, at least be a poison shrimp para magdadalawang isip sila sa'yo. So for instance, the best example of that is Taiwan and Singapore, right? Very small countries compared dun sa kanilang kalaban. Remember, Singapore kinik out sa Malaysia. They have been having a lot of diplomatic tensions with Malaysia over time. They get a lot of their water and other resources from Malaysia. So Malaysia is a big country compared to Singapore. Tiny. It's just a single city state, diba? At the same time, Taiwan, yes, much bigger than Singapore, pero ang katapat niya is China, right? 1 billion people. It's the second largest economy in the world. So kung ikaw ay Taiwan at ikaw ay Singapore at maliit na bansa compared dun sa kalaban mo, your best chance is not to try to match yung kabila ala North Korea, put 70-80% of your GDP on having a large army. No. Your best chance, mga kameta, is to develop yung tinatawag na minimum defense posture or minimum deterrence capability, no? So that will make us a poison shrimp, no? So as early as 2011, mga kameta, and diniscuss natin yan dun sa article natin in 2015. In fact, this was my first article for Center for Strategic and International Studies. Bumibisita tayo sa Amerika noon to study about yung Philippine arbitration case and what are the prospects for that. So ito po yung article natin, so you're free to check it on your own, mga kameta. Wait lang, nilagay ko ba dito? Yeah, I'll just post it there also later on para makita niyo naman. So I've been studying this issue for quite some time carefully, mga kameta, because for me, I'm all for the Philippines standing on its own. I am against us relying on foreign powers. No, definitely 100%. But hindi pwede hanggang slogan ka lang. You have to back it up. You have to back it up with actual policy, with actual commitments and all. So, ito po yung article natin. Noong 2015 pa lang, I discussed the relevance of this policy of yung revised AFP Modernization Act na pinasa ni Pangulong Aquino, no? So, diniscuss natin dito, mga kameta, dito sa article natin sa Center for Strategic International Studies back in 2015 pa lang. So, this was my first article noon. In-explain natin yung ginawa ni President Aquino. God bless his soul, he did a good job, at least on this front. Again, we can have a debate on other issues, but on this front, Modernization Act. So, the first Modernization Act was under Ramos, but under Aquino, you could say he's the second better president after Ramos in the past 30, 40 years. Now, let's see Marcos Jr., no? So, ito, let's look at the date, mga kameta. Ito, Republic Act number 10349, no? Or ito. So this is 2012, mga kameta. Basahin natin, ha. Again, panon ni President Aquino to, ha. Hindi panon ni Tatay yan. Papakita natin sa inyo anong sinabi ni Tatay pagdating sa mga bagay-bagay na yan. But in fairness naman, sometimes I separate Tatay from his administration because I think Secretary Lorenzana did a pretty good job of defending our claims in the area and overseeing that. So ito po, ha. Ito yung Republic Act number 10349. So, ito po ay an act amending Republic Act number 7898. Ito yung sinasabi natin kay Ramos, establishing the revised AFP Modernization Program and for other purposes. Be it enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the Philippines and Congress assembled. So, Section 1, no? Section 1, sinasabi dito, no? Ito yung components of the Revised Modernization Act. So, dito tingnan natin sa other letter B, capability, material, and technology development. The AFP Modernization Program entails the development and employment of certain capabilities that can address the assessed threats, provided that the acquisition of Air Force, Navy, and Army equipment and material of such types and quantities shall be made in accordance with the need to develop AFP capabilities pursuant to its modernization objectives, provided further that the acquisition of new equipment and weapon systems shall be synchronized with the phase out of uneconomical and obsolete major equipment and weapon systems from the past in the AFP inventory. And it also says that no major equipment and weapon system shall be purchased if the same are not being used by the armed forces in the country of origin or used by the armed forces of at least two countries. Kasi kung kukuha tayo ng technology na sobrang wala namang ibang gumagamit, good luck na lang sa maintenance and getting parts for it. Provided furthermore that only offers from suppliers who are themselves the manufacturers shall be entertained. Shall finally that no supply contract shall be entered into unless such contract provided for in clear and unambiguous terms and after-sale services and the availability of spare parts. Pag-usapan natin more yan later on, especially when we discuss the FA-50 fighters, mga kameta. So, it's a very, very detailed law. So, doctrines development, the Department of National Defense, the AFP, shall be responsible for the generation, evaluation, consolidation, and formalization of doctrines, the conduct of periodic review and validation of doctrines through field application, testing, and exercises, and the dissemination of approved doctrines at all levels of command. No, so you can go here and you can go into the details. So marami safeguards here to make sure walang sayang na pera, walang duplications, hindi bara-bara lang ng purchase, hindi lang tayo kumukuha ng mga armaments natin kung saan-saan na unreliable suppliers. Parang ganito, parang bibili ka ng Ferrari, yung binila ng Ferrari, wala naman siyang after-sale services and maintenance. So maganda lang siya for 6 months and then good luck na, di ba? Hindi naman pwede ganun, di ba? Dapat maayos kasi malaking pera ang pinag-usapan dito. So, again fake news na si Tatay Digong ang responsable for this. No, this really started under President Aquino and not long after, you had the FA-50 fighters. So yung pictures na baba, makikita niyo mga kameta, this is President Aquino looking at the FA-50 fighters that were escorting him on the way back from the United States towards the end of his administration. Because of course, hindi naman overnight yan. Now, let me give you a little bit of background on this, mga kameta, because kung titignan mo yung mga Koreano, pagdating sa mga Koreano, of course, North Korea, alam na natin yan, very militarized country, no? Pero yung South Korea, for a long time, nag-rely sila on the US for their own self-defense, including during the Korean War. But over time, mga kameta, mga Koreano, ay nag-develop ng sariling kakayahan, including their own defense industry. So they have a very advanced defense industry at tinutulungan tayo ng mga ito for quite some time, mga kameta, para ma-develop natin yung ating minimum deterrence capabilities. So for instance, sa mga kapatid natin na Koreano, binigyan tayo ng mga corvettes, etc. But the good thing is, they're also giving us more advanced armaments. Nonetheless, around 10 years ago, when we wanted to get fighter jets, the problem was this, mga kameta. Because yung ating Air Force ay gumagamit ng super old school na mga airplane for quite some time. I don't know, third generation ba yan? Subsonic ba yan? Like slower than the speed of light. So the problem was that hindi tayo pwede kumuha ng super high level fighter jets kaagad. So what happened there, mga kameta, was we had to get kind of an intermediate transitional equipment that gives us the sufficient preparation to go later for more high-level fighter jets. No. So, kung titingnan mo yung FA-50 fighter ng Korea, ito pa isang trainer. So, it's not a full-fledged fighter jets. Nonetheless, dun sa sales nila sa atin, they upgraded it with advanced electronic systems, with missile system, etc. So, it's like an upgraded Kia or something like that. Or, alam mo, parang Hyundai na ginawang Ferrari. Medyo nilagay ng nitros, para may speed. Medyo nilagay ng, parang ano siya tawag dyan. It's an upgraded one. Ma, pwede pa off yung internet dyan na isa kasi medyo nagsislow down dito. Pasensya mga kameta, napansin ko lang pala na bumabagal yung ano natin dito sa isa. Hindi, dun sa isa pa-off dun sa room. Kasi gumagamit ng internet, yung sa room, yung TV dyan. Kasi gumagamit ng internet. Pasensya na mga kameta, napansin ko lang biglang nagsislow down pala tayo dahil marami gumagamit ng internet dito. Alam mo na, parang parang maligo kayo sa tubig. Wag kang kasi kailangan ng tubig sa tabo, yung mga ganun. Anyway, mga kameta, balikan natin itong, So, the reason we settled for the FA-50 fighter from Korea, which is not really a fighter, it's more like an upgraded trainer, is that we needed to get back into form because for a long time wala tayong really modern aircraft, more than a decade. Because remember, 1998 pa lang, we were supposed to get fourth generation fighters para we level up, but it didn't happen. So for a long time, mga kameta, more than a decade, the Philippines ay medyo yung Philippine Air Force natin ay pinabayaan, no? So it's only under Aquino that we are trying to fix that problem. But the thing is, napag-iwanan tayo, so kailangan natin mag-catch up. So literally the term is there is catch up. So gumamit tayo ng trainer fighters from Korea, and then in-upgrade natin para hindi lang pang trainer, para may konting kakayahan, no? So this is the context why kumuha tayo ng FA-50 fighters, not Saab Gripen fighters from Sweden or F-16 or F-15 fighters back then, because we need to get back into groove, no? Yun po yung konteksto ng ating purchase ng FA-50 fighters. Not to mention, it was offered with decent price, it was offered with assurances of after-sales good services, with maintenance, and other kind of considerations that made it reasonable over time. Of course, personally, I was like, I'm not sure that's like the best thing. We need way more than that. But we have to start somewhere, no? And we had to be systematic about it, no? And we had to be reasonable about it. Kung, di ba, wag ka mag-jump from, I don't know, from Kia to Ferrari right away. Maybe my mid-range. Maybe, get a Mustang. But this is not even a Mustang. I don't know, get an SUV or something like that. Anyway, figure out the metaphors. I can think of metaphors, but baka mamaya mean ang lalabas. Okay, so mga kameta, this is the context. The thing though is, pagdating kay Pangulong Digong, suddenly, parang iba na yung priority ng Philippines because gusto natin makibeshi sa China at biglang gusto ni Pangulong Duterte is, bakit tayo nag-aaksaya dyan, di ba? Bakit tayo nag-aaksaya dyan? So, by the way, ito yung picture na makikita natin dito, mga kameta, no? So, ito panahon ni President Aquino pa yan, ha? Yung mga kameta natin dyan sa YouTube, don't worry, ilalabas din natin yung version nyo. Version na yan. Oops. Dito. 1 second. Now, so I explained to you guys yung context na bakit FA-50 fighter ang kinuha natin, hindi F-16SF. Because we had to catch up. Because matagal tayo nawala sa eksena. Diba? So you have to go for an intermediate option that prepares you for the next step. Diba? So again, paano ni Aquino yan? So clearly you can see here, no? Itong footage na yan, those are FA-50 fighters that we got, and this is panahon ni Aquino, not panahon ni Tatay Digong. Now the thing is, when Tatay Digong came in, medyo magulo, at isang thing na parang made us a little bit worried was not only his seeming kowtow to China, but also the fact that he didn't seem to have any appreciation whatsoever, no, of the need for developing our minimum deterrence capability. So this is from 2016, June 20, bago pa lang si Pangulong Duterte, ayan na, nakakalat na kung ano nang sinasabi. Sabi niya, yung pagbili natin ng FA-50 jet fighters ay, waste of money. So always this is a person who doesn't understand, national defense, etc. But gladly, he got responsible people to run the Department of National Defense, including Secretary Lorenzana. So in fairness naman, so let's just go to the exact quote of Tatay. Sabi niya, you only have what, 2 FA-50s? Why did you buy that? So obviously, hindi na-appreciate na Tatay na hindi naman hindi naman Lego to, di ba? Hindi naman to, alam yung mga car na mabili mo sa 7-Eleven, it takes time before those will be manufactured, delivered, etc. So to the Air Force, do not misconstrue me. I'm a Filipino, I'm a citizen of this country, and I have every right to say what I want to say. Sayang pera, doon. You cannot use them for anti-insurgency, which is the problem at the moment. You can only use this for ceremonial flyby. So, pampakit lang daw yun. Now, obviously, we paid 18.9 billion pesos to Korea for the delivery of a squadron, 12 FA-50 jets, but obviously, it will take time before sila darating. So kay Pangulong Digong, he's on the record. He said, ang concern dapat natin is anti-counterinsurgency, at pang-ceremonial flyby lang yan. So clearly, this is not a person who's appreciating long-term planning for national defense. As I said, in fairness naman, Tatay said something, including mga jet ski niya, But, in fairness naman, in the Department of National Defense under Lorenzana, Secretary Lorenzana, he implemented yung second phase. Kasi yung revised AFP Modernization Act pushed for three-phased 15-year AFP modernization. Kasi hindi mo magawa in 1 year or in one presidential term. It takes more than 2 presidential terms. It takes more than a decade. You're talking about 15 years, 3, 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. So, pagdating kay Digong, nasa second phase na tayo. And in fairness naman, we did stick to the plan, not perfectly, but we did stick to the plan to a great degree. And we were able to build up our naval capabilities. And in fairness, it was under also Secretary Lorenzana and the previous administration that we got the supersonic BrahMos missile systems from India, which is a derivative of Russian technology with, of course, Indian input, no? So, yun. So in fairness naman, medyo the picture is just mixed. It's not, okay, Tatay medyo hindi na appreciate, but at least the people that he put in charge, they kind of appreciate it. Nonetheless, ang problema natin mga kameta was that nagkaroon tayo ng delays dun sa second phase of AFP modernization. And one reason, mga kameta, is not only that there was perhaps lack of super appreciation by the president per se, who was very focused on more internal domestic issues and schmoozing with China perhaps, but the other problems was the pandemic. So, for instance, medyo nakakabahala yan that, you know, Secretary Lorenzana, umamin siya na because of the pandemic in 2020, yung pandemic na galing sa China, that also affected our modernization efforts. So, for instance, a part of our national defense budget actually went to dealing with the COVID-19. So, this is July 2020. So, 9.4 billion pesos funds for military modernization projects were actually diverted to COVID response ayon kay Lorenzana back then. So, if the 1998 Asian financial crisis undermined our efforts to modernize our military, not to mention ERAP coming after, the problem also here was not only lack of appreciation by the Commander-in-Chief, the previous Commander-in-Chief, but also because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So, hindi natin na-kompleto yung second phase of AFP Modernization Act. So, hopefully, we'll be able to catch up on that so that we can move to the third phase. And doon, mga kameta, sa third phase, here we're gonna talk about real fighter jets for the 21st century, right? And the problem kasi we have is Korea, medyo sumablay din sila ng konti because the other year, actually the big news was medyo nagdi-delay dun sa mga spare parts maintenance kailangan natin. So for instance, this was the report last year mga kameta kung saan only 5 out of the 12 Air Force F-50 fighters were actually operational dahil nagkaroon tayo ng delay sa spare parts delivery and overall maintenance issues, no? So, eto na nga, 12 na nga lang yung semi-modern fighter jets mo, lampas sa kalahati nun ay hindi operational. So, we had to do really, so, medyo reality check, no? Medyo, learning curve yung nangyari sa atin. But nonetheless, at least we have something to work with. And I think that's also the context within which President Marcos Jr., is paying more attention to the Philippine Air Force and doing all of those things that we were talking about. Now, mga kameta, let's talk about this a little bit because mahalaga yan. Now, the thing is, yes, there are concerns about Korea delivering as efficiently as we were promised initially. But the good thing is because we got our FA-50 fighters from Korea, so we already have this established defense relationship with Korea, that puts us in an interesting situation to be able to purchase the real modern fighters. No, so this is the KF-21 fifth generation advanced fighter na Korea is, in the process of not only developing but developing for export markets. No, so this is something that really excites me because this fifth generation fighter is far more affordable based on some of the numbers we see than the F-35 fifth generation fighters na piniprovide ng US or NATO NATO alliance. Not to mention yung options natin from China, like bibili ka sa China ng fighters to fight against potentially China, doesn't make sense. Or bibili ka ng Su-57 or 75 from Russia. Alam mo na, di ba yung problema with Russia because of sanctions, etc. And not to mention the Russian technology is not too different from the Chinese technology. In fact, the fifth generation Chinese fighters use Russian engines for quite some time until they're replacing it. And we also hear news about problems hitting Russian 5th generation fighters Su-57. I don't know about their Su-75. It's gonna go anywhere because that's really the cheaper version that they want to do for export. So that puts South Korea, not to mention also India and others, in a good position to come into the next generation fighter markets. In fact, now Japan, Italy, and United Kingdom are already working on the 6th generation fighter. Parang mga ano to, parang 5G to. Kung mga 5G pa lang tinitingnan natin, may 6G na dinidevelop. So the good thing is we have already this pre-established defense relations with Korea. So hopefully that puts us in a good position to get real advanced fighters for the 21st century, and those are 5th generation fighter, KF. Itong Boramae fighter. Sorry, I mentioned Boramae fighter. Zadi na. Okay. So these are the things we're looking at. Now, medyo fast forward tayo ng konti mga kameta. Punta tayo kay kay Marcos Jr. Jet setter. No, in fairness naman to President Marcos Jr., let's be fair to the guy. I mean, when it comes to foreign policy, I think he's doing a pretty decent job. There clearly are some risks that come with his hard pivot to the West and what China could do. But the thing is, I always say, if we have concerns, mga kameta, if we have concerns about overdependence on the United States, which I completely agree about. We should make sure we're not dependent on the US. Kaya nga sabi ni Ambassador Romualdez when we were talking to him, he talked about the need to develop relations with Japan, with Europe, with Australia, with India, and of course back in the day even with Russia, no? The thing mga kameta is, by the way, yung 5th generation fighter na dinidevelop ng Korea, may partner sila doon from ASEAN, and that's Indonesia. So Indonesia is kind of a shareholder, kind of a partner for that. But this primarily Korean technology and investment project, no? Anyway, going back to this mga kameta, in fairness kay President Marcos Jr., he has recognized the importance of external defense capability development. In fairness kay Marcos Jr., he appreciates, at least, not the candidate, but as the president right now, he appreciates the value of alliances. So my point is, it's very important for the president, who's semi-youthful. I mean, I don't know about Tatay riding those fighter jets, but at least he's going there, he's putting the effort, medyo Top Gun, Maverick, etc. But, in fairness, I see some appreciation also of the need to develop our own capability. And katulad ng sinabi natin at saka yung interview natin with Ambassador Romualdez, at the end of the day, this EDCA should not put us in a position of risk. And more important, this EDCA should not make us more and more dependent on the US. No. The EDCA should be a springboard for the Philippines getting the maximum possible assistance to develop its own minimum defense credible posture or minimum deterrence capability, no? And that brings us, mga kameta, sa discussion ng what is the next fighter jet that we're looking at. So, nakita natin in 2021, Secretary Lorenzana discussed two options. One is the Saab Gripen fighters from Sweden, and it's like I love IKEA probably, I love Viking series and all of that, but I'm not sure that's the best fighter jet for us. At the same time, ang Estados Unidos rin ang nag-offer sa atin ng F-16 fighters. So, let me just... ito. So, this is what the US is offering us, F-16 fighters, plus some advanced missile systems, no? So, medyo 2 years na itong issue na to, 1.5 years na issue na to. So, ang tanong is, where are we going, no? So, na-okay na yung US State Department at ang Pentagon, yung pag-export sa atin F-16 fighters, but base dun sa discussion ko with the former Defense Secretary and his public statements, mukhang one concern is the price. So, mukhang the concern no longer is maintenance and operational capability because na-train na tayo sa FA-50 fighter, but mukhang the concern right now is medyo mahal, medyo price, especially because of pandemic, especially because of all of the other concerns we have. So, my hope is the president will leverage yung EDCA and warming relations with the United States to get a good deal here. And not only F-16 fighters from the US, hopefully we can also get the advanced fighter jets, 5th generation fighters from Korea. And F-16 kasi medyo luma na rin yan. Medyo 40-year-old technology na yan. I know they're gonna give us probably the more advanced, updated version, but still, the platform is kind of an old platform. Medyo lampas pa sa Titos of Manila platform, no? Diba F-16 fighter ang ginamit dun sa unang Top Gun? Was it F-15 or F-16? Anyway, so medyo luma talaga siya. So, probably they give us on a more upgraded version. There's the F50 Eagle X version na maganda. Pwede rin yun kasi 4.5 generation na yan. So, ano, parang iPhone yan, di ba? Parang, if you're gonna get the 14, at least give us the 12 or 13. Wag sana yung iPhone X. Maganda yung iPhone X, pero medyo, ano na, it's so 2000 and, I don't know, 18, di ba? 17, di ba? Yeah, 2017, di ba? So, sana medyo nagdinelect sila 2007, wag naman yung ganon, di ba? But nonetheless, we need to get this kind of fighter jets, the most advanced version, good maintenance and after-sales service, a good level of helping us to be able to maintain it, to build the spare parts on our own. And hopefully, we also go for other fighter jets and other kind of armaments here and there. Now, again, this is not because kailangan gusto natin ng giyera. But as the Roman saying says, diba? The dictum, if you want peace, prepare for war. Because kung mahina ka, you invite aggression, you invite bullying. And what we're trying to do here is, again, not to be a big fish. Hindi natin matatapat yung mga big fish. Not even a small fish. But let's be at least a poison shrimp. Yun po ang gusto natin. A la Lee Kuan Yew. And we saw Singapore has embodied the doctrine of poison shrimp and has moved forward in many, many directions. In many, many good directions. And now Singapore has one of the most advanced militaries on earth and definitely the most powerful in Southeast Asia. No offense to Indonesia, right? And no offense to Thailand, no? But they have the most advanced and capable one. In fact, I have a Japanese friend who used to work with, who was trained by the Japanese Self-Defense Force. He said, parang halos ka-level na nila yung Japan. I'm not sure if I buy it that far, but that's how good Singapore is right now. So if tiny Singapore can go that far, Philippines, 120 million people, maybe we can do something about this, all right? Again, just to be a poison shrimp. We're not here to match the big fish, head to head. In the same way, China is not trying to match the US head to head. That's why they're developing asymmetric defensive capabilities. But we have to at least 2 squadrons, of decent fighters, because China has hundreds of fighters, and it is expected to have squadrons, multiple squadrons of 5th generation fighters, 2-seater 5th generation fighters, and and China is not 1 but 2 5th generation fighter indigenous programs of its own, And a lot of our neighbors are already moving to Rafale 4.5 generation fighters. I think Su-35 was offered to Indonesia. They turned it down. Who knows? Maybe they'll be offered an Su-57 5th generation fighter by Russia. They already have F-16 fighters from the United States. So yung mga katabi natin na hindi nga US ally, meron silang advanced fighter jets. I mean, Singapore has F-35 fighters already. Thailand is expected to get F-35 fighters, which are now being offered at cheaper cost. Indonesia already has F-16 fighters and are looking at 5th generation fighters or more advanced 4th generation fighters from Russia, from US, etc. So we really need to catch up. So yes, you can say everything about Top Gun, pa-cute here and there, but in fairness, at least we have a president right now that appreciates, the need for really developing yung ating armed forces for the 21st century, not the 20th century, not the 19th century, for the 21st century, right? So this is catch up, and in many ways we see this is the irony. Bongbong Marcos has far more in common with Aquino on foreign policy and defense policy than with Tatay Digong, and in many ways probably Tatay Digong was more of a aberration. If you look at the trajectory of Philippine foreign policy over the past 2-3 decades at least, all right, or at least past decade and a half or so, all right. So thank you very much mga kameta. I'll keep it here. Let's have more discussions about this soon. Hindi ko pa napag-usapan ng sibling rivalry. There's more to discuss. And then of course, yung Made in Marites 2.0. Sorry, to be honest, di ko na lang pinanood ng gabi na yun, yung araw na yun, so I could never may have other more priorities. Pero balikan ko yan para we can have a proper review because nakausap natin pala. Oh, by the way, shout out kay Xiao Chua, ang kaibigan natin. Thank you very much for your nice gift, for your birthday gift to me. I really appreciate it. So ito po yung libro ni Xiao Chua, paring Xiao Chua. Sorry, ganin natin to. Paring Xiao Chua. Thank you very much for that. And ayun naman kay Xiao, parang, diba, sabi na, check mo yung movie. Check mo yung movie. So, i-check natin mga kameta. We're gonna check that movie. And we're gonna have our analysis. Bago ma-pull out, kasi parang, alam natin, medyo nilalangaw na rin yung, yung mga movie na yan. Okay. So, bago ma-pull out yan, hopefully magkaroon tayo time to watch it because medyo busy tayo and all of that. But again, I hope you appreciated our discussion today, mga ka-Top Gun, Top G's, yun! Boo! Booyaka siya! Ayan. So thank you very much. Maraming salamat. Magdi-dinner na tayo. Alright? Talk to you soon. Or wait lang, mag-thank you muna ako. Saan ba tayo? Thank you rin ako dito mga kameta. Wait lang ha. Thank you tayo dito mga kameta. Wait lang. Thank you tayo. Tingnan nga natin mga comments nyo. Baka naman puro kayo nagagalit sa akin, ha? Mga ka-Top Gun. Wait lang. Ayan. Thank you very much sa... Yan. Salamat kay Mitch Tencho, kay Eden Olonan, kay Ma'am Jocelyn, kay Annabel Gamoras. Ayan. Thank you so much. Ayan. Flight hours niyan, sir. Ayan na naman yung mga comment ng mga Magellan Junior level comment. Ayan. Shoutout naman daw, sabi ni Josh Saldivar. Ayan. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Ipopost ko sa baba yung mga links sa mga articles na pinost natin. So, eto kahit hindi kayo expert sa defense and military, kahit hindi wala kayong pake sa mga ganitong bagay, I hope after this meta, you have a better appreciation of the lay of the land, and hopefully you will keep track of the latest development under Marcos Jr. and hopefully under the next president and all. Sana we're gonna constantly move in the right direction kasi kailangan talaga natin i-develop yung ating kakayahan, mga kameta. Alright? Thank you very much. Maraming salamat also kay Vida Soriano for your good wishes. Kay Kat Rodriguez also. I appreciate your comments and super nice. Sabi ni Mike, F14. Hindi. F14 hindi na pwede yan. Pang Top Gun yan. And as you know, F14 was offered to just one country in the world outside the United States, and that was a Middle Eastern ally that is no longer an ally today, obviously. Alam niyo na yan. Sabi ni Harold, nice discussion. Thank you very much also. Ayan na, pasensya na, medyo hindi ko napansin pala kasi I'm just looking at the OBS here. Hindi ko tinitignan. Naglalag pala kanina kasi may mga nanonood din dyan sa isang room sa nagko-compete yung internet natin. In fact, dito sa YouTube, ang ginagamit ko yung sarili kong load para hindi magko-compete yung internet natin. Unfortunately, ang mahal-mahal ng internet sa Pilipinas, but the quality is definitely not there. And once you use multiple devices, ang hirap magkaroon ng matinong discussion. So, apologies na lang doon sa mga kameta natin kung nagkaroon ng a little bit of delay. But I hope still you got the drift of our discussion. Right? Okay. Let's continue discussion. May sibling rival discussion pa tayo. At yung Made in Marites 2.0, balikan natin yan. Because pasensya na that day I said, mag-gym na lang ako. Parang, not worth it. Alright. Thank you very much, guys. And talk to you soon.